Hey guys, it's Chris from Twin Talk here, and today I'm going to be drawing Batman from the animated series. The first thing I've done here is I've laid out everything in blue pencils. Now, I'm using an iPad Pro right now, but I recently got this in the last year, but prior to this I was using pencils and papers, so if you want to try to draw this traditionally, you can also do it with pencils and papers. I like to do the outlines and sketch work in the blue pencil first, and then go over the finished piece with other things like pencils and inks. But right now, since I'm using the iPad, what I did was I already drew out my Batman here in blue pencils, and I made a new layer here for the final inks. So instead of the blue, I'm going to go to black. Now what I like to use here is the technical pen or the studio pen, but I'm going to go with technical pen because it's just a little bit more precise and I prefer it. But the studio pen is good, especially since, what we're drawing here today is Batman from the animated series, which debuted in 1992, which was the year I was born, and this was my first introduction to Batman. And Bruce Timm's art style is, the studio pen is very good for that. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go with the technical pen. But now let me show you real quick on the layers. Let me take off the inks and the template. But basically what I did was I drew this, and this was going to be the head. His style is very simplistic, but very beautiful at the same time. Bruce Timm, he has these iconic looking figures from this series. But what I did was, what any artist would do is, to make things easier, you just do a bunch of different shapes that eventually becomes the figure you want to draw. So let me just delete or take off this first layer here. But just to give you guys a reference of what I do here, I did the shapes first, and then the final figure in blue pencils, and now I'm going to go over it in my inking, and then color it eventually. But let me just throw on the first layer here. So you guys can see the shape underneath. It's just a giant like oval, and I lined different things up with these different lines you see here, like right here, right here, right here, right here. And just, you get the shape down first. Because honestly, like drawing, it's a skill that you're born with for sure, but honestly, anybody can learn how to draw. And once you realize that it just comes down to a bunch of different shapes and things, it really does make the process a lot easier. And you can see that, it's a learned skill as well, just like anything. So, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the series here while I draw. This series was very influential to me. It was my first exposure to the character of Batman. Growing up, like I said, I was born in the year 1992. Me and my twin brother, Kevin, and we would, watch this constantly. And our uncle would always have these VHS tapings of the episodes at the time that came out, and we would just rewatch them and stuff, and a lot of good stuff in there. They were very influential with their storytelling, and it's been, almost 30 years since then, and the storytelling still holds up to this day. I believe that they just came out with a remastered version of everything on Blu-ray. But if you have HBO Max, I think you could watch them all in 4K anyway. So save the $100 on the Blu-ray set and just get a subscription to HBO Max. And like I said, Bruce Timm's style is very simple, but it's a lot of crisp lines, very beautiful. They said when they were making the series that they were very inspired by the early Superman cartoons from Fleischer. And, I grew up watching those as well, too. My grandpa would always, make these DVDs on his computer. He would kind of back in the day when we had Napster and all those different, platforms, he would record the old Superman shows from the 40s, the cartoon, and then make a DVD of it for me and my brother to watch, and we just fell in love with those as well. But I know watching the behind the scenes of the animated series for Batman, they were super inspired by that, and they wanted to go back to that hand-drawn animation style and that old, make the character of Batman iconic again. So they went in and they did all these beautiful hand drawings, these different cells of cartooning, and Bruce Timm's style just became iconic from that series forward. I always appreciated his even his later stuff too. Like he kind of went off the rails a little bit in later years, but he came back recently with a film called Justice League Gods and Monsters, which was a pretty interesting take on these characters from DC Comics. He took Batman. Let's say, for instance, the character Batman. He took it. We know all Batman as Bruce Wayne, playboy millionaire. Parents get killed in an alley. But in his version of Gods and Monsters, what he did was he made Kirk Langstrom, who's in the comic books Man-Bat, and he made him into like this like vampire Batman, who was kind of like an anti-hero almost. He didn't want to eat blood as a vampire, but he kind of had to because that's how he survives. But it was just an interesting take on the character overall, and that was pretty cool. And even his Superman was like, instead of it being Kal-El from Krypton, it was General Zod's son. So he's already got an evil streak going for him almost, just by the birth name. Because we all know General Zod, he means business. I'm not liking this line here, so I keep erasing it. And that's the beauty of the iPad Pro, is that you can double tap to erase certain things and not leave those messy eraser marks that you would get from traditional drawing. Like I said, I bought this iPad last March, so March of 2020. They just came out with this. This is the iPad Pro, the 12.9 inch, and I bought the Apple Pencil with it because 10 years ago I told myself if they were ever going to make technology where you can draw on the screen, that I had to buy it. So technology caught up to my ideas from 10 years ago, and they finally did it. And you can draw on the screen, and you can even buy these paper-like matte finishes almost online, and you can buy them anywhere: eBay, Amazon. I'm sure you can buy them at Best Buy and different things, but you put it on. It's kind of like a little coating you put on your iPad screen, and it feels like paper. And it definitely translates pretty well because even when you draw on it, it sounds like paper, which is pretty cool. But when you put it on, it definitely makes a difference because I drew without it for the first couple weeks when I had the iPad, and you're just kind of drawing on like basically like glass, it feels like, and it slides all over the place. It wasn't terrible, but this paper finish definitely made a big difference to me. And like I said, 10 years ago when I said that if they ever did this, I would buy it, I kept my word and I bought it, and I haven't looked back since. I actually just recently drew for a coworker of mine on paper for the first time since I bought this thing, and I was just like, man, it's pretty crazy how technology is the future of art. But like I said too, if you don't have an iPad, because they're pretty expensive. So up until recently, I finally had the money to pull the trigger on one, and I did. But if you're drawing with paper, it's the same exact process, except you have to erase, and instead of double tapping, you have to erase with an actual eraser, and you lay out your lines. You can either use light boxes to do these first drafts of the characters, or just go light with a blue pencil and then do your final pencils over it, which most comic artists do anyways. They do thumbnails first in blue pencil, and then they go over their thumbnails with either a 2B or HB pencil. I always preferred the 2B pencil. And if you're not familiar with what that is when you go to school, you always have the number 2 pencil. And that was pretty standard. I always drew with that in school, but up until like my teenage years, I didn't realize that pencils were different. So as an artist, whoops, I made a mistake here. Let me go back. Undo that. There we go. So, going to Michael's art store or whatever your art store is, you see that they sell these different packs of of pencils with all these crazy numbers, H, 2H, HB. I don't know why I keep double tapping that. It keeps going to eraser, but... So anyways, so you buy these different pencil packs and you realize that, you know, being an artist, there's a lot more involved. H, I believe, is usually a lighter tone. It's more for like your basic layouts of different things. And in the B, it gets darker and darker so that when you want to get to your finished pieces or even get it like pretty much like jet black by using a pencil, you can get, I think, all the way to 6B. And that's what I would use for like my finished stuff. I would start with like HB and then go to like 2B and then 6B for my final, like, you know, comic pages, traditional on 11 by 17. But since I got this, I've been using this program, Procreate, which is pretty inexpensive. I believe it was $10 to buy on the App Store, and you know, I don't regret it at all because that's what I'm using right now to draw this. And you can, it's incredible. It really is. You have all these different settings. Like, there's thousands of different brushes and pencils and pens and colors you can use. And like I said, it can get expensive. I ended up paying about $1,500 for everything. You know, between the 12.9 Apple iPad Pro and then the Apple Pencil and the paper finish, came out to about like $1,500. But it's worth it in the long run because you save your money with these different resources you have. It's kind of an investment in yourself as an artist. You spend the money to make these creations that you can either print or, you know, sell online as different digital files. And it's just really cool because like you could get storage and save different things. And you can have a lot of work on this one. Whoops. You could save a lot of your work on this piece of technology, and it's almost become like the new sketchbook of you know, of this generation. But going back to Batman, like I said, I have a twin brother, Kevin. We run a show, Twin Talk, here, and we're trying to grow the channel a little bit with some drawing tutorials. But growing up in the, you know, the 90s, it was a great time of life, honestly. I feel like that was some of the, what am I doing here? They had a lot of good creative stuff going on in the 90s. We grew up adoring Batman Returns, which of course is the sequel to Michael Keaton's '89 Batman, directed by Tim Burton, starring Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson. And I always preferred Batman Returns, just because I felt like it showcased the character more of Batman and it was more action. And as I grew up, I realized it was just like a very creepy emo version, you know, of the character, where like Warner Brothers gave Tim Burton the keys to the car and he kind of just like played with his Batman toys. And what we saw, the end result is what you know, scared children of the 90s was Danny DeVito's Penguin character. And all the McDonald's merchandise they had to sell, and a bunch of kids went out in droves to go see the film. And what they got was Danny DeVito bleeding from the teeth and eating fish and biting people's noses off, and a very seductive Catwoman and Michelle Pfeiffer. And the plot is Penguin tries to steal all the firstborn children and murder them. So it's not a very family friendly film, but it's a very nostalgic film for me and my brother, and we used to watch it constantly with our grandmother, and just pop that VHS in, and as soon as it finished, just hit rewind, wait 5 minutes for that tape to go all the way back, and rewatch it again. And I always loved the score. Danny Elfman's score in that, I believe, is his finest work. If they ever sold it on vinyl, I have to look that up, but if they sell the Batman Returns soundtrack on vinyl, I definitely got to get it. Okay, so I'm done here with the inks. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to color in the character. And let me see here. Let me take this off, see how it looks. I want to keep that on. What I did is I threw on a texture here on this on this app Procreate. I bought this vintage comic book paper texture package. when I first got the technology, and I kind of like the way it looks. Looks very old school, like that old newspaper print. And I like throwing on. This is kind of like my style at this point. I like throwing on this texture. It gives it a very old school comic book look. I'm gonna make a new layer here because this is gonna be our colors. I'll rename it colors. And again, you can do this on traditional paper. I grew up. Our gifts as kids was always 11 by not 11 by 8.5 by 11 copy computer paper. My dad would just bring that home, and me and my brother would be advertised for. We would. I mean, I'm sorry. We would be occupied for a long time, entertained by it, and we just loved it. It would kill our time. We would just draw for hours. So I chose this blue here. Let's see how this comes out. See if it looks like. Yeah, it looks a little bit like it. The animated series Batman always had this black overlay, and then underneath was kind of like this like dark blue shade. So I'm just throwing this under my ink layer, and again, like I said, you can do this on traditional paper. You could just draw it. You have to be a little bit more precise because you can't make layers on actual paper, but technology these days allows us to do that, so I'm kind of taking advantage of it here. I'm going to go behind, make his eyes white. Let's see how the skin comes out. I don't love that. Go to my color palettes here. I want a little bit of a lighter tone. But yeah, so the Bruce Timm's Batman, very influential. It's very iconic. His character designs were very simplistic. You know, with my collectibles, I'm a big Batman collector. I got some cowls, some toys. But I'm going to be looking into buying some animation cells from this cartoon because it just means so much to me. And it would be quite an addition to my my Bat collection. It was nice too because it was a cartoon, yes, but you can appreciate it as an adult too because it had a very crime noir vibe to it, and the storytelling in it was very adult. There's some things on there that are even like disturbing at sometimes, and you know they went ahead with it, and they said, you know what, we want to do this our way, and commit to this style we have. Let me see if this works. I'm just going to kind of throw some shades on it. Throw some dark shades here, shadows, give it some depth. But overall, that's pretty much it. That's your Batman. Like it was very fun to draw this and talk to you guys about this character that means so much to me and is such a pop culture icon. I definitely look forward to the Robert Pattinson Batman movie that's coming out. I hate that I got pushed back, but, you know, we live in a COVID world. And that's not going to work. And then we just have to be patient sometimes with these things because the final product, you don't want a rushed product. Just for the sake of having it out, you know, you want something that is gonna shape a future generation of Batman fans, the same way that this cartoon did, and still is today. I don't know if these shadows are working, but I'm gonna keep them anyways. I kind of like them. I should throw some gray under here. I'll make I'll throw some gray under it just so I give him some body. do the marker. Do this. I'll give him kind of like his round chest. I'll just fill it in, just so it adds a little bit more fullness to this drawing. But yeah, so this is it's an easy Batman to draw. You know, it's just a couple lines, and I'm going a little bit overboard here, just because it's kind of a passion thing for me. I love this character. I love this cartoon. Like I said, it was my first exposure to Batman, and then shortly after that, just binging Keaton Batman movies. But this cartoon means a lot to me, and I watch it to this day. You know, I'm almost 30 years old now, and I still adore it the same way I did when I was, a little boy. And I even like too, in season 4 they changed it from the Batman the Animated Series to the New Adventures of Batman. And it had a different animation style, some updated character designs. And some people don't like it, but I honestly loved it too. They gave Nightwing a mullet, which, it was 95, so I guess it fits. But, I always liked, I liked that series, The New Adventures of Batman. And it was just a great time to be alive too, because it was like the Batman Superman hour, where you had the Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, and then you had 94's Spider-Man and X-Men cartoons with those iconic, sound designs and themes, the musical themes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and sign this here, and we're pretty much done with this. But this was fun to do. I'm going to be doing this more often, and I plan on drawing Joker and Mr. Freeze, some of my favorite characters, maybe even Scarecrow, because those are some of my favorite of the Rogues Gallery from The Dark Knight, and it should be fun to do because I never really took a crack at drawing these character designs from Timm, but it was a lot of fun. So anyways, guys, check out our channel. We do reviews of shows and speed drawings. Right now, we're currently reviewing WandaVision on Disney+. So give our videos a watch if you like to see our commentary on the shows and our thoughts. And we just, we drink, we draw, talk about comic books, movies, all things pop culture, and is our passion. And again, I hope you can draw this Batman. It's pretty simple, but give it a whirl, people. Let me see your final products. Go to our Instagram and maybe tag us in it in your final drawing. All right? So have a great day, guys, and be safe in this COVID world. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.